take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing today?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good too. Good weekend for Bama fans.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Big game yesterday in Tuscaloosa, of course, the tilt between LSU and Alabama, a de facto SEC West championship game of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tide pull away in the second half. Another strong second half, win 42-28. Um, Yeah, along with some other big games yesterday. Of course, Washington, a big performance over USC. Ole Miss surviving a win. Clemson getting a big win for themselves. But, of course, let's start there in Tuscaloosa, as we usually do. Um, a couple weeks to prepare for it, of course, after the win over Tennessee, a bye week. And we knew coming in that Alabama would need to play its most complete game of the season to beat LSU's dynamic offense and have their offense put up enough points themselves to stay with them, and they did exactly that. Jalen Milroe played the game of his life, ran for an Alabama record 4 touchdowns, record for touchdowns by a quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, didn't make any great mistakes with the ball. LSU was playing off all game. They limited the deep ball, but they beat them underneath. They ran the ball, a lot of designed runs from Milroe, which was great to see. And even though Jaden Daniels played just as well, another Heisman-worthy game, he did make the Tide forced one interception in the what was that, the late third, early fourth quarter.
Yeah.
A tip ball intercepted, and then the Tide put themselves up 2 scores, and then a vicious Dallas Turner hit later knocked Daniels out the game. We of course do hope he's all right. And LSU just was never able to keep up. So Greg, yeah, just talk about it. Where do you think this Tide team can go now after this win?
You know, I think the sky's the limit. Main thing that we just need to do is focus week by week. The Saban likes to always talk about the rat poison because the same media that said we were dead after the Texas game will be the same media back loving us again. So folks just don't need to pay attention to stuff. Just handle what we need to do and focus on Saturday in Lexington. Because we win Saturday, we win the West for sure. But we also know that this has been a weird season. When you go on the road, crazy things have happened to a lot of teams. So we just got to come out focused, ready to go, and do what we need to do going forward. Because we still have Kentucky, we still have the easy game in Auburn, and we know both those games on the road. So we have a lot of stuff to take care of before we worry about later on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, even though Kentucky has slipped the last few weeks, that's still a tough road game. And a kind of a team that our style of late kind of plays into their style. That's going to be a
Yeah,
tough. It's going to be a little smash mouthy type of game, I think. Uh, we'll see. We'll see what they do now. Of course, that we've kind of all hats off to Tommy Rees. A lot of Alabama,
yeah,
a lot of criticism this year from Bama fans, but that was a well designed game plan. Of course, from the standard, horrible opening drive, his scripted opening drives don't usually fare well.
no, not at all.
But after that, I thought it was, that second drive, our first touchdown drive. I thought that was maybe the best drive of the season. We had Jalen was pulling it down and scrambling when his receivers weren't there. He hit a couple of good intermediate throws, which of course is his weak point, and then we had the read option touchdown.
Yeah,
And that was kind of it all game long. Like I said, LSU, if you watch the tapes, they were playing off, and they didn't want to get beat by the deep ball. In their weak secondary that was missing 3 players anyway, so they were playing backups on a very just not good secondary.
yeah, they had a lot of freshmen out there, and I thought, well, with yeah, I was kind of shocked that they actually played the deep ball well because I mean we really didn't have that many opportunities there, but I thought the best thing that I saw from Jalen, he was confident in everything he did. He didn't hold the ball too long for most of the game, and he just knew, he's read the thing, and if it wasn't there, he just took off. He wasn't. He's hesitated a lot this season, so yesterday he just seemed really confident in what he was doing. It's like he took it to a different level. The game seemed to slow down a lot for him yesterday. He just seemed to know exactly what he wanted to do at all points. So, I thought he's really turning into the quarterback that I thought he could be. But, better now, better late than never, and perfect month to really hit his stride for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. Well, you mentioned two SEC games left. You just need to win one of them to clinch the West, but obviously you need to win out to have a shot to make the playoff.
Right.
And at like we said, a tough Kentucky team despite their recent struggles, and then of course an Iron Bowl in Jordan Hare, which is
Never easy.
who the hell knows. Like we said, we hope 2 years ago that we finally broke the voodoo curse on in that stadium with Bryce Young's, that amazing final drive to tie in the overtime win. But who the hell knows? That Hugh Freeze will throw everything in his trick book.
Oh, yeah.
And you just hope that the Tide's athletes, that their talent outweighs Auburn's, of course, and we hope that that's the difference. Of course, that's 3 weeks from now. As for now, like we said, just a good game. The defense bend but don't break. They did what they had to do. They made stops and they needed to in another great second half, as I alluded to at the beginning.
Adjustments.
Um, it looked for their, a little worrisome. Couple points. The very first drive, Perkins gets a sack after Jalen holds the ball a little too long, and then we don't hear his name called the rest of the night.
Yeah.
So great job. One more thing to the offense. Great job by taking Harold Perkins out of the game.
Yeah.
And then, we score late in the first half, take that 21-14 lead, and then Jaden Daniels leads the Tigers right down to tie it up. And
Yeah.
that was real bad at the time because they were getting the second half kickoff, and sure enough,
Right.
they
I was
took
like,
that.
Lord.
Yeah, sure enough, they scored on their first drive of the second half to take the lead. That's like a 14-point swing in about 5 minutes of game time, and
Yeah.
you're a little
Gotcha.
worried right then. And then LSU didn't score again the rest of the game. Alabama forced
Mhm.
punts. Like I said, they got that interception off the tip drill, and then
Yeah.
Daniels got hurt and had to come out of the game with a concussion, um, or at least due to concussion protocol. And the
Right.
Alabama offense kept humming.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess the most worrisome part of yesterday was Will Riker missing two two field
yeah,
goals.
yeah.
like
If you had told us this time last week that Will Riker was going to miss two field goals in the LSU game, I probably would assume like, okay, we're going to lose by a field goal or two then.
yeah,
Um,
but yeah, and even though that last long drive where he missed that field goal, I thought we should have went for it on 4th and 1. But
mhm,
overall, that drive was just beautiful. I mean, just took about 7-8 minutes off the clock, just ran it down their throats and finished
mhm.
it out. Give it that Obama feel.
Yeah,
So,
that great closing power game that Alabama had become so known for before the high flying
mhm.
offenses,
Yeah,
and even during them, when they needed it in closer games,
yeah,
even during like the Tua eras, they would lean on a guy like a Josh Jacobs or
yeah, or Derrick Henry.
yeah,
Right.
Derrick
And
Henry
well,
or
Pitt, yeah,
Najee Harris, yeah, guys that
yeah,
Bo Scarborough, those type of guys that they just run the ball and they or
hmm
even if they had to quick short passes, they'd get their first downs and just chain them together.
exactly. And
Um,
honestly, I would really like to say shout out to he gets a lot of grief there, but Proctor, man, he had a heck of a game yesterday. He's been
Absolutely.
through some battles, and as a true freshman, coming from the state of Iowa to the SEC, I know that was quite the transition. Just a different in talent level. But he's had a quite an up and down season. But yesterday he didn't have any issues at all. He handled, and they put some help on his side. But overall, I mean, he's come a long way this season. And by the time he leaves Tuscaloosa, he's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a Sometimes just with, especially in those positions, offensive line, secondary, things like that, where you have a lot of things to look out for on the fly, it
Mhm.
takes time to really get your feet under you. And you see it all the time where, a promising freshman might struggle at the start of his season, his freshman season. Then by the end of it,
Mhm.
he's kind of living up to that hype. So,
Yeah.
like we said, hopefully 3 more weeks until a potential SEC title game for Alabama. And that's what you just want to see them keep improving.
Yep.
Like I said, this is definitely the most complete game Alabama's played so far this year, but you hope it's
Most
not the
definitely.
best one. They will
Right.
play.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Like you
Let's
said,
hope that nobody's content and they want more. So we just gotta keep pushing.
exactly. Yeah, and hopefully, like you said, the worst thing that comes out of it is that Reichard uh, ruined his his made field goal streak, and then he just
Yeah.
delayed him possibly taking the all time points lead, as he is
Exactly.
now, I
Because it's
believe,
tied.
only 30 points behind what was his name, Reynolds, the Navy quarterback who holds the all
Yeah.
time. He's the all time scoring leader in NCAA history.
Yeah. I mean, he has what the all-time for field
Kickers,
goal kick now
yeah.
500. Was it 500 or 501?
Yeah,
I
Reichard
mean,
is the leading scorer as far as kickers in NCAA history right now. He's
yeah,
just got a few guys to jump for the all time lead,
all
which is
time.
crazy to think that Alabama kicker, uh, but like we said, 30 points in but 5 potential more games. You would think he'd be able to do that.
It's possible. Definitely
Uh,
there.
yeah. Anything else from yesterday you want to talk about for the Tide?
It's just a good solid win and good to get revenge on LSU.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, always love to get that revenge game at hand LSU. They're now third loss of the year.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
they are effectively eliminated from the SEC West. I don't really think that they have a
No,
way
there's no
to
way.
overtake Alabama. Yeah.
No.
Of course, Ole Miss right there on Bama's heels. They survived Texas A&M yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Back and forth game. They built up leads, blew them. A&M took the lead late. Ole Miss took the lead late. Then A&M was driving for a game tying field goal, and I believe someone on Ole Miss got a fingertip on it.
Mm-hmm.
So avoided the rat poison, as Mallory would say. Once again, had them, although it was a push yesterday. Uh, but yeah, so Alabama, like we said, just needs one more win,
Mm-hmm.
either against Kentucky or Auburn, and you hope, of course, it comes next week.
Exactly.
And no stakes going into Jordan here. Uh, Elsewhere around the country, we'll stay in the SEC. The other big one there, Mizzou visited Athens, played Georgia, and gave them a game for a little bit.
They
And
did.
toward the end, though, a big interception by the Bulldogs, and they just closed it out there. But Missouri gives Georgia fits.
They do. They, I
Uh,
mean, they played a great game there.
mhm,
Just not enough. Just not enough. You could towards the end you could tell the talent differential.
mhm.
I thought. Um,
Yeah, there's not enough horses in the stable, as it were.
yeah,
Um, and of course, Georgia has to turn around, and Ole Miss comes to town next week. That big game.
it's an interesting game.
Yeah, that's a huge one for both programs. Um, let's see, another big game between ranked teams yesterday. Texas survived Kansas State in
Oh,
overtime. Um,
I thought
Kansas
they.
State, what's up?
I thought Kansas State was going to pull that thing off.
Yeah, they came back. Texas took a pretty decent lead
Big lead.
early, and then just really started handing Kansas State every opportunity to get back in the game. And the Wildcats took it, got it to overtime, had a fourth down, and instead of kicking a field goal to tie it, they elected to go for it and beat Texas. And just I agree with the call to go for it, but the play call was pretty bad, and the quarterback basically just fell over. Um,
You know, I kind of agree with it, but at the same time, you're still there. I mean, before yesterday, they were still in contention possibly for the Big 12. So maybe you do kick the field goal and keep the game going. It's hindsight 2020 type thing. If it,
yeah.
you know. goes that way, it looks wonderful. But yeah, I mean, overall, I guess they're playing with house money in Austin. No one really expects them to win. No one's gonna be mad if you don't get it, but tough one for them. But I mean, Kansas State. I mean, they played, a great comeback game, and just overall, a lot of teams in the Big 12 that started off so poorly have just really the last month, and the Big 12 has gotten a lot tougher than what we originally thought for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, and staying there in the Big 12, of course, Bedlam, the final Bedlam we may see for a while. Oklahoma State pulled the upset, won on their home field. I did call that one, I think, and you just kind of knew that, the way that Oklahoma struggled and lost to Kansas, um, just kind of a nosedive for them after that Texas win when
Yeah, it kind of
they
has
really
been.
were looking like one of the better teams in the country. And then the struggle against UCF, the loss to Kansas, and now a loss in Bedlam. It meant a lot to the fans there, to Mike Gundy, not only the coach, but a former player there. Um, and it's a lopsided rivalry. I think like the all-time record, like Oklahoma has it's like 70 to 9 to 20 or something. Um, it is a lopsided rivalry, but Oklahoma State right now has the last laugh because, like we said, that game we don't know when that's going to be played again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, it definitely a one-sided rivalry, as you said. I don't think Gundy ever won when he was at as the quarterback, and very few in between as the coach there. But big for the fans. I think it was a much bigger game to Oklahoma State overall. The OU, the way the
mhm,
OU people talk about it, but it's good for them to go out with that. And that's they're another team that's really turned their season around. I mean, they
mhm.
got housed by South Alabama. And since then, I mean, they've beaten Kansas State, Kansas, West Virginia, Cincinnati, now Oklahoma, five in a row there. Sitting at 5-1 in the Big 12 there. So right there, as the team playing Texas, if the season went in right now, would be playing Texas in the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, I
So
was going to say they control their own destiny
they
as far
do.
as it comes to playing, and they have their
This
remaining
team,
games aren't that difficult at UCF,
yeah,
at Houston, and then home for
yeah.
BYU.
So I mean, all winnable games. I mean, and they've been playing good football.
Hmm.
And maybe have one of the most under talked about players in America. That running back, he gets
No,
no national hype. But Gordon, I mean, ran for
Ollie Gordon the second.
137. Yeah, Ollie Gordon, 1,200 yards on the season, 12 touchdowns, and gets no national love for real. But heck of a talent.
Yeah, on a team like you said, they struggled early. They had those back-to-back, ugly loss to South Alabama at home, lost
Mhm.
to Iowa State the week after on the road, and you thought like, okay, maybe it's gonna be a bad year for the Cowboys, but you
They
said now
really,
5 in a row, and they have a chance to make their second Big 12 title game in 3 years. Of course, you remember a couple years ago they were about a yard short of winning the Big
oh,
12 title and maybe
sure.
even stealing a spot in the playoff. Um,
Yeah, but that was against Baylor. If I
mhm.
remember right, they
Yeah,
did they have a big lead in that one, and Baylor came back. Or
I can't
if I
remember. I know it was I
I
can't
know
remember
there
if it
was a
was that or a
horrible
back and
call at the
forth.
end of the
Yeah,
game. I know they made a horrible call on like fourth, like their last play was like the terrible play call, if I remember
yeah,
right.
it was real short, or they ran it when they should have probably thrown it, and they, like they said, they got stopped about a yard short of the end zone, maybe even less.
Yeah.
And that's one of those weird sliding doors or alternate universe moments where if Oklahoma State does win that Big 12 title game, they were a one-loss Power Five champion. And that was the same day that Alabama beat the snot out of Georgia in the SEC title game, and that was the Cincinnati
Wow.
year. And
That
then
maybe Georgia doesn't get in the playoff.
yeah, so you had like I think an unbeaten Michigan team,
hmm
Alabama as SEC champs, so obviously
Yeah.
they're in. You had Cincinnati unbeaten, and they were getting a lot of
Maybe maybe since he doesn't get in and they pipe
yeah.
Oklahoma State in, yeah, that's probably what would have happened.
Probably, yeah. You don't foresee Oklahoma State being Georgia, but maybe the committee said, "Well, Oklahoma State's a power conference champion and Georgia's not." So it's weird to think about. But
Yeah.
past is past, and like you said, that's what the Cowboys want to focus on now is winning their last 3 regular season games and getting a date with Texas and a chance to ruin their season on the way out.
Yeah, That,
Of the,
that you know that would be very I think for Mike Gundy, I think that'd be very rewarding. He seems to
Hmm.
be pretty bitter about teams leaving. He got the win yesterday. Sends Texas out with a loss as well. I think that'd be pretty big for the program and just the fan base as things change in the world of college football and the Big 12 really, continues to change a lot for next year as well. So I
Hmm.
think they would love to do it. So yeah, but yeah, three winnable games, two on the road. I guess that's the only thing you never know on the road. It's been a lot of weird stuff on the road this year, but
Yeah. And let's see, also another big ranked team or ranked game. Washington and USC played, and the Huskies returned to form after a couple of lackluster weeks for that offense. Although it wasn't Michael Penix Jr. I mean, he had a good game, solid game, but as their running back, his name escapes me right now, but huge game
like
for the
two
Huskies.
thirty, 235 on the ground, I think.
Whew,
Like
yeah,
crazy number. And the crazy thing, he only has 400 yards on the season. He was like
yeah, that,
435 on the season, so it's not like he's had an excellent season. It just came out of kind of nowhere. He's only had like one 100-yard game.
yeah. Like you said,
So
just kind of out of nowhere. Just Johnson. That's it.
yeah,
26 carries, 256, and 4
256.
touchdowns.
Golly.
As they win 52-42. That fourth quarter, the difference. The Huskies scored their last 10 and shut out
Yeah,
USC. USC drops to 7-3. They're out of the Pac-12 race. Of course, they
yeah.
were out of
They were
uh,
out to now.
national race after their last loss. I believe now they're unranked after that too.
I think so. I
Let's
haven't,
see. Yeah,
but yeah.
they are unranked in the top 25 anyway.
So, they just fired Grinch too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, Grinch got fired today. Happened about an
Finally
hour.
happened.
Yeah,
Probably
too late.
well too late.
But they probably could have started the season without him, but I
Yeah,
probably got rid of
exactly.
him.
That's something that should have changed after the Tulane loss. After in the Cotton Bowl loss, after that's when that should have changed. Because it's not like they got a bunch of scrubs on that defense, you know.
No, there's a lot of talent there. I mean, we
Hmm.
knew he wasn't a good defensive coordinator at OU. I mean, it's not a secret. It's, I mean, even when Lincoln Riley at OU, I mean, the things weren't pretty there with Grinch as a defensive coordinator before he left. So
Hmm.
before they went to USC together. So yeah, but yeah, you figured these are going to go to the Big Ten with the new defensive coordinator. It'd be interesting who they bring in for that. And it was funny, like somebody said, USC might struggle in the Big Ten because they go from playing a lot of finesse teams going to the Big Ten. They're going to face a lot of Utahs every week.
Hmm.
May not be as friendly as what they might have thought, beside the money.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those. We'll see how it works out for you.
Exactly.
But yeah. So Michael Penix Jr. Like I said, not a spectacular game,
Great.
but a good solid game. And
Yeah.
elsewhere in the Pac-12, Oregon put it on Cal as they should
Yeah.
have, and so now that's we're looking for a Washington Oregon rematch in the Pac-12 title game if they both hold serve.
Yeah, they both hold serve. That game should be pretty epic again. Though, I would, then that if they were to play right now in the rematch, especially on neutral field, I would definitely say Oregon would, based on how they've been playing the last since that game. Oregon would definitely be the team I'd expect to win the game the second time around. It's hard enough to beat a team twice in a season, but I think Oregon overall, better team, especially on the neutral field.
Hmm.
I mean, playing in Seattle is a monster. I mean,
Yeah, and again, it's not like they were blown out that game. They had a
yeah, they
chance
were
to.
right
They
there.
missed a field goal at the end to tie it up to send it to overtime, but
Yeah.
and Washington's schedule is brutal down the stretch. They get Utah at home next week, and Oregon will host USC at home. So USC still has a chance to ruin someone's season at least. But I don't see any way that USC defense, with or without Alex Grinch, stops the
No.
Oregon offense.
Oregon offense. And then also, once It's hard as well to keep folks motivated after everything's kind of done. You're not going to go anywhere with the Pac-12.
Hmm.
You're out of the playoff picture. Caleb now. I mean, he took that loss yesterday very hard. I mean, got a lot of criticism for how he was crying on in the stands after the game.
Hmm.
Uh, if you saw that video at all. So
Yeah.
you just want to know what their emotional state is going forward and how they'll look. And that's not a not a team you want to go into a game with if you're not ready to go. Oregon will eat you alive.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Dan Lanning has a little vicious streak there in Oregon as the Ducks. A little mean streak. And then elsewhere, some notable games yesterday. Clemson upset Notre Dame at home. Then Dabo, had some weird speech about buying Clemson stock after the game. I don't really
Yeah,
want to
he's
buy
been a
stock in a four-loss team, Dabo.
yeah, had a he's had a weird week. I mean, in the middle of the
Yeah,
week, he had that whole issue with that that call
with
on his.
Tyler from Spartanburg. Yeah, uh,
That was ridiculous. But I mean, Notre Dame just looked horrible yesterday. And they Notre and Clemson tried to give them the opportunity. Even at the end, they fumbled when it looked like game was over, and Notre Dame didn't do anything with the ball at all. They just looked out of it. There's been no consistency with Notre Dame. They're either
mm-mm.
good or they're bad.
Yeah, and you think maybe part of that is young coach Marcus Freeman,
Yeah, still
still learning
adjusting,
curve. And you've seen a
young
lot
guy.
of good potential from him. Maybe it's just about getting more guys that buy into his system there. And ooh, Bryce Young almost got killed there. Uh, but yeah, I really, like I said, I'm not buying stock in your four-loss team, Dabo. Sorry. Enjoy your
Enjoy
Chick-fil-A
it,
bowl win. I don't even know where
maybe.
that's not even now. Peach Bowl's New Year's Six bowl now. You're not going there. Enjoy
Right.
your Outback Bowl. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Gator
um,
Bowl.
yeah, Gator
Yeah.
Bowl. That's an ACC bowl, right? Duke's Mayo Bowl. Maybe Dabo will get some mayo dumped on his head
Get
this
the
year.
mail dropped on him. Uh,
The reason though that I did want to talk about this game, so Sam Hartman, another terrible game versus Clemson. He's now 0 and
oh,
5 versus Clemson in his career.
and
There was
had
only
horrible.
one other quarterback in college history that went 0 and 5 against one single opponent. Greg, do you know who that is? He
Oh,
holds
and
a
five.
special place in our heart. I will say that.
I would say probably the Florida State quarterback. I can't even think of his name.
You know it. The man who got a speeding ticket twice on the same road from the same cop within like an hour.
Chris Ricks.
Chris
Good
Ricks,
old.
baby.
He
0 and
couldn't beat
5 versus
Miami to
Miami
save
in
his
his
life.
career.
Oh, he couldn't beat Miami to save his life.
He could not.
Chris,
Yeah.
what a
Games.
guy.
Yeah, that's from the era when they first moved to the ACC, and that was
Yeah,
the big hype. And they moved the game to Labor Day on Monday night, and Chris Ricks just never could get it done against the Canes.
nah,
And
no.
he was a legend to us anyway. Like we said, once got a
Dude,
speeding ticket from two speeding
fight
tickets from the same cop on the same
was
spot
out.
within like an hour,
So
and
funny.
used to have business cards that he handed out that said Chris Ricks, Florida State quarterback.
So,
Um, the man was a legend.
oh, what a legend. What a legend. What a guy. Oh, that's
um,
so funny.
yeah, but and then
Mm,
so yeah, so ACC wise, uh, I believe now. So not that like I said, that lost in it, or that wasn't even a conference game, so it doesn't matter. Florida State struggled but handled business in the end against Pitt.
Yeah, I mean, they were
And
missing a lot of their talent, both
yeah,
starting wide out. But, you know, they're a team that, man, overall they're looking really good overall. I mean, you got to
hmm
think. I mean, they were missing both their starting wide receivers, and they still threw for. I know it's against Pitt, but he still threw. Jordan Travis threw for 360 with
hmm
both of his starting wide receivers out. That's somewhat impressive right there.
yeah, Benson put up 97 yards on 12 carries. On the ground.
Right.
Douglas stepped up. You mentioned there are two top receivers out. Douglas steps up for 115 yards on six
Yeah.
catches. And the defense, is an ugly game. Pitt will do that to you, especially
Yeah,
in Pittsburgh.
at Pittsburgh. Place that Florida State struggled the last couple of years, last couple of
Hmm.
trips up there. Really struggled. Yeah, they definitely got a tough win there. Now the game that we thought may have been decent coming up next week, but now I think that they're gonna house Miami
Yeah, Miami lost to NC
again.
State and just looked hapless in it.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Speaking of teams, yeah, one week might look great and the next week just look terrible. Miami.
Miami is that team. My goodness.
And yeah, so yeah, like you said, it's probably going to go two ways. Either Florida State's absolutely going to crush them, or of course Miami pulls some upset, which I don't have a lot of faith in because it is in Tallahassee.
Oh yeah, in
Um,
Tallahassee, that crowd is can't wait to house the game.
yeah,
So yeah, that might get ugly quick.
yeah, that could be a bad game. If they were able to somehow travel back in time and play that one at the Orange Bowl and get some of that Orange Bowl magic, maybe, but no. As
Mm-hmm.
it stands, Florida State will play Louisville in the ACC title game. Louisville had a good win over Virginia Tech yesterday. Um, and the Cardinals, like I said, they had that bad loss to Pitt themselves. Um,
I still don't understand that one at all.
no,
I know
and
it's
you
bad
never do. That's
weather,
the thing about losing to Pitt. You never understand how it happens.
especially this year. Like this, if they ran that back, they house them again.
Hmm.
Does it like just one of those crazy ones? But yeah, I mean, Louisville should possibly go into that game with that one loss still. As
Yeah, and
the
they're only conference games left. They have Virginia at home, and then they have to travel to Miami. Two winnable games for Louisville.
and then the
Um,
top
The
kind of
problem is I
rival.
don't really know. Let's see who they hold tied, but there are one, two, three, four, five, six teams, one game behind them in standings, or at least in the loss column anyway. Um,
Everybody's 3-2 in the big
yeah.
ACC.
Now they have beaten. Let's see, they've beaten Georgia Tech, who's behind them at 4-2. They've beaten Duke,
Yeah.
who's at 3-2, and they beat Virginia Tech yesterday. They beat
So
NC State and they beat Boston College. So they've beaten everyone that's
have,
behind them except North Carolina, who they haven't played. So they would hold a tiebreaker over all those teams, like I said, except North Carolina.
they're
But I
pretty
don't
much
know how, a whatever
how
way
that.
tie works. And of course, I'm assuming some of those teams still have to play each other. So,
And who in North Carolina, I wouldn't put any stock into them that they're gonna hold serve for the rest of the season.
no, yeah, they've kind of faltered as well. The only other game that I'm put on here is just notable from yesterday's Army. Very surprisingly, ended Air Force's unbeaten season. Just beat the
Boom.
shit out of them, like 23-3. An Army team that's just not been good this year, really. And an Air Force team that's unbeaten and was very good, and they are
Right.
now. That puts a huge dent in their chances to make a New Year's Six bowl. Gives a big boost to Tulane, who played an ugly game but won yesterday.
Yeah, they struggled but got the win.
Yeah, and so we'll see. Like I said, other than that, I didn't really notice anything. Um, all the big teams kind of handled their thing. Like we mentioned, Ohio State. Records
Struggled a
was in
little.
it for a little bit. Ohio State used their talent to pull
Yeah.
away in the second. Michigan, kind of a ho hum, beat shit out of Purdue.
I guess
We
the
mentioned
biggest
Oregon.
thing with Michigan is just that the weirdest. That whole situation is the weirdest with the guy.
Connor Stallions, yeah, he officially resigned or they fired him or whatever this week. The rest of the Big Ten is calling for action. Michigan is saying begging them to respect due process. It's a whole mess. I don't know if you saw it, but New Mexico, of all teams, trolled them. They had a message on their board before the game or during the game at some point that said, "Welcome, Connor Stallions," and in the parentheses it said "probably." Uh,
Hilarious.
but yeah, Michigan's got a big date next week with Penn State, who throttled Maryland. Or
Oh, Maryland.
Our boys started out 5-0, and they've now lost 4 in a row.
Dude, yeah, they definitely haven't lived up to the hype we gave them. We gave you guys a shot, and you guys let us down tremendously. We'll be sending our letters of
Yeah,
anger
or
at the end of
grievance. Yeah, we want our money back.
the
Um, yeah, let's see. Elsewhere, Oregon State survived Colorado.
Mhm.
Um, Colorado switched play calling duties. Their offense had struggled lately, and it didn't really help. The only thing that's going to help that offense is getting some guys that can play line in there
That
next year.
Yeah, but I mean, for that offensive coordinator that got demoted, I mean, you went from being a head coach to
Hmm.
coming to be the offensive coordinator, so you're already taking somewhat of a demotion,
Hmm.
and at least a title. Money wise, who knows? But then on top of that, now you're just the signal. You got demoted to signal caller, and they and now Pat Shermer is the OC, and I wouldn't based on his time in New York, I wouldn't exactly say that that's a great thing at all. But
Yeah.
different in the college game. But wow,
So yeah,
for a team that was looked very promising to go bowling, they're definitely don't appear to. That seems to be out the window at this point. They seem to be in a kind of a funk and may not win another game.
yeah. The Buffs, yeah, like you said, their offense is now in the funk, but which is worrisome for them. They
Yeah.
get Arizona, freshly ranked Arizona next week. It is in
Mhm.
Boulder, but Arizona coming off a good win over UCLA, an
Oh
upset
shoot,
win.
man.
Yeah. What was the final score in that? They
20 was it 27 to 27-10. So I mean that's a nice win. I mean considering UCLA was coming off, a little hot streak there themselves.
mhm.
And but yeah, going to Tucson is not hasn't been friendly as of for
I
a
know.
lot of.
Yeah, we've talked about it on here before. That's a tough place to play, and proved so yesterday. Elsewhere in the Pac-12, Utah beat the ever-loving shit out of Arizona State.
Yeah, they were angry after the Oregon loss. Goodness, we
Yeah,
took it.
like I said, and they go to Washington next week, so still a chance for them to play spoiler.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
see elsewhere
And
in the top 25,
that's a
Tennessee
tough
beat the
game.
hell out of UConn, and then Kansas beat Iowa State.
Yeah,
Um, Next week's big games we mentioned, of course, Alabama goes to Kentucky, Michigan, Penn State, probably the headlining tilt next week. I went in Happy Valley. Um, Ole Miss, of course, goes to Georgia. Ole Miss looking to stay in the West race theoretically or mathematically anyway, and then also just stay in that you know spot for a
because
possible New Year's Six bowl.
yeah.
Um,
Overall, I mean, Ole Miss is quietly having a heck of a season. No one's
mhm.
paying attention to them at all. Really getting no talking. I mean, they're sitting there with the only one loss, of course, in Tuscaloosa. I mean, no shame in that at all. But man, if they were somehow to pull that thing off in Athens, which it's not going to be easy. Now, if it were in the Grove, watch out. But yeah, in Athens, I don't see it happening. But I do see them giving Georgia a game.
Yeah, you would think they're going to be hyped up for it.
Hmm.
Like you pointed out, like it's just that something about playing against Saban just scrambles Kiffin's
Brain,
head, but he shows up
yeah,
in all his other big games, and they put
yes,
some points up. And if they need to make that game a shootout. If they can make that game a shootout against Georgia, I think they can win. But if Georgia can
mhm,
slow them down and get some stops, then
yeah,
it probably
because
ends. Like a lot of games end in Athens.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's not going to be easy at all. But yeah, if they can open up that passing game, because that's the one thing Georgia is weak in the secondary. If you have the time to throw, you can there's some holes in that secondary that you can exploit. It's just a matter of do you have time to do so.
Hmm.
And they have the talent, they have the offensive firepower to do it. It's just a matter of can you have that time to do it. If the offensive line can hold up, but in Athens, it'd be a miracle, but I don't see it happening. But it should be an interesting game nonetheless.
No, yeah, I'm with you. I don't. It's just so hard to until it's one of those. Like, well, until we see it, like I'm gonna pick Georgia to win at home.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. But if anything, I mean, as much as we've talked about how bad the Georgia schedule's been, and it's been nationally talked about all season, their into the season is, you know, even though it's been a lot of home games. I mean, to play, you know, Mizzou and then Ole Miss and going to Knoxville. I mean, they're getting their kicks in November for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I actually don't have anything to add to that. And then, of course, we mentioned Utah, Washington, USC at Oregon, Miami, Florida State, and then Tennessee at Missouri. Kind of a sneaky, interesting game to keep your eye
That
on
is it.
next week in the SEC. Um, and as far as that, college football, we got the first playoff rankings were released this week. It was what Ohio State won,
Uh, Georgia, Michigan,
Georgia,
Florida State,
Michigan, and Florida State. Uh,
and Washington was
Washington, yeah.
5.
So that's what Washington was
Oregon
on the
6.
outside looking in.
Yeah, Oregon right there 6. But as we know, with a lot of these teams playing each other coming up, I mean, we'll see quite a switch of things in the next within the next month for sure. But
Yeah, like I said, we know Michigan, Ohio State will play each other. We know Georgia's got some tough games ahead of them. We said Ole
mm,
Miss, and they follow up the next week. They have to go to Knoxville, and then they still potentially the SEC title game.
mhm,
We mentioned Washington has a brutal November, a potential rematch with Oregon, who Oregon still has Civil War on their plate.
so
Um,
a lot of
Texas probably has an easy. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head. I think their regular season should be pretty simple, but potential troublesome Big 12 title game, and then you got Alabama lurking there.
yeah.
Um, I think one thing is for sure. I don't think there's margin for error for anybody. I don't know. I think
Mm,
I predicted it before in our prediction episodes this year, but I said I don't think there's going to be any two bid leads this year. And right now, it's
I
looking
look
like you
around.
could at least, at worst, have all five Power Five champions one loss or better,
Mhm.
and that leaves no room for someone. So you wonder who's going to get left out in that case. If
Someone is definitely getting left out. Might
yeah,
have one loss here. The most interesting game for Texas is going 2 weeks on the 18th, going to at Iowa State.
mm,
There's talk that Ewers will be back this week against TCU, but if for some reason if he's not back going to Ames, watch out. That might be a one to keep our eye on for.
yeah, Iowa State's one of those teams you mentioned that in the Big 12 that kind of started slow, but they've come on the past few weeks. Their loss yesterday notwithstanding. Um,
Also this team,
and
but
then
yeah.
Florida State's battling with just the weakness. Like we've mentioned it
Oh,
before, but the ACC looked like it was going to be just a gauntlet, and now all these teams are dropping out of the rankings in high places. And
that's be a team
Florida
that
State's best win now, LSU, they're a 3-loss team. The Clemson win doesn't really mean
four
much
loss.
anymore. Um,
They for sure have to run the table.
hmm
I mean, even if they lost, like they can't even lose. If Louisville comes into that game with only that one loss, that wouldn't even help them. I mean,
Yeah,
they have to run the table,
yeah.
no
You
doubt.
would think Florida State has to be an unbeaten
Yeah,
ACC champ to get in, and it looks like they should be.
they
Um,
should be.
you would
There's no
figure the Big Ten champ is in either way, unless just I don't know what chaos would ensue. Say maybe Michigan loses to Penn State, but then beats Ohio State. I
hmm
don't know, and then because they're not going to beat a highly ranked team in the title game,
right
but
because they're probably playing as of now. They're still playing Iowa, I believe. I think Iowa's still leaders of the West.
yeah, you would think that a SEC champ gets in,
Yeah,
whether it's unbeaten Georgia or one loss Georgia or one loss Alabama.
right.
Um, and of course, Georgia they're not clinched yet. Georgia, if they do lose to Ole Miss next week, and then Tennessee beats them, Tennessee would indeed, I think, take the lead in the East
Yeah, they
there,
would.
depending on their result versus Missouri.
Right.
Um,
So it's still, even though it's looking like Alabama, Georgia, there's still some obstacles to overcome for both teams, and
mhm,
not the easiest route just because Bama game on the road and going to Jordan Hare, but Georgia playing some talented teams. I mean, playing Ole Miss, even though it's a home game, but yeah, going if just going to Knoxville, that stadium is gonna be rocking,
mhm.
especially if they beat Mizzou, then they're gonna be ready to go, and that's gonna be an atmosphere that Georgia hasn't seen all season.
Yeah, and that's that's a program they don't like each other. Tennessee Georgia's it's not a premier rivalry or anything, but that's two
Right.
programs that
Just
don't like each other.
yeah. And it'll be the last time that they'll play each other consistently, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't believe either of those would be in the
Yeah.
permanent three.
So
Of course, we don't know the SEC scheduling plans beyond next year.
right, but I would assume that that's probably out the window regardless.
Yeah, we just
Heck, I
all we
mean,
know is we hope that they come to their senses and move to 9 conference games.
yeah, eventually we'll get there. Just I think it's just a matter of the money and everybody else moving to such so that they don't feel like that they. Because right now, I know the SEC just doesn't feel like it's necessary to stay where we're at. And I understand from a business aspect, but
No, yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that should do it for college ball. Switching gears, we'll go to the hardwood. We finally got a James Harden trade this week. He goes to the Clippers along with PJ Tucker and Philip Petrusev. In
mhm.
exchange, the Sixers got Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris, Kenny Martin Jr., a 2026 first round pick, a 2028 first round pick, a couple of second round picks, and a 2029 first round pick swap. So a couple questions for you, Greg. One, did Philly get back enough?
Yeah, I think they got more. I mean, they definitely wanted to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they actually probably got it more than what they should have. Honestly, I don't. I really don't understand why the Clippers would have wanted to make that move overall.
And that was my follow up question. Does this really make sense for the Clippers? Does it work? Because now you got a team with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden on it. And
Jeez,
are there enough shots for all four of them? Can all
man,
four of them stay healthy enough to play together? Like, well, how many times will we actually see that lineup together?
all four out there together. Yeah, that's a big question.
Um,
I mean, on paper it looks nice. And, 5 years ago that'd be a hell of a roster.
5 years
Now,
ago, that's the Monstars from Space Jam. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a hell of a roster. Now, I who knows? But I just don't see it working long term. I just
Mm. Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. I believe we're recording this Sunday evening. You'll listen to it Monday. I believe reports are that Harden will play his first game Monday evening with the Clippers. So we'll see. Uh, it's an interesting trade. I agree with you. I think Philly got enough, especially at this point. Like you said, if this was a few years ago, then no, you need even more. You need a star coming back for James Harden plus the picks. But we'll see how it plays out. Now it's early, long season
yeah,
in the
that's
NBA.
a long way to go.
Um, the other big thing from this week was the in-season tournament started. A lot of cool courts, a lot of cool uniforms,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it just interesting in concept. We'll see how this goes. One thing that I see that pretty much everyone agrees on is that the name's horrible.
Yeah.
And why we couldn't call it, like the Jordan Cup or the NBA Cup or something Cup or
NC,
yeah,
it sounds terrible.
yeah, just in season tournament. So it's interesting. I think personally in the future, I wouldn't mind seeing them just completely mix up the groups too, and not do it east west. Just randomly draw the groups.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think so. And then what was the other big thing this week? Oh, Wimby. Yeah, Wimby had a
Huge
hell of a
win
coming out party the other night.
against the Suns. My goodness.
Yeah, what about 38? Is that what he dropped?
He, I mean, he's
Um,
just a dude that you just see that he's gonna be something special based off what we've seen at times this year. Like you just waiting to see it go, all the time. But man, phew, yeah, dropped 38. I mean, so far I've been 20-8 on the season there. I know it's early, but not a. He's just a guy you always wonder. Even though he's a talented guy, just with all the hype, how he's gonna respond to it. But man, he seems to be well on the way to greatness.
hmm yeah, it's just really cool to watch those young guys like that actually show flashes of their potential.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially a unique guy like Weminyana, with his frame and skill set. Um, but other than that, like I said, early season NBA, not much. You just kind of look for the trades, like the Harden trade, and the big
Yeah,
performances. And then, like I said, with the in season tournament, the courts and the uniforms, just something a little cool, a little different to
right.
watch. Um, let's see. World Series finished this week. The Rangers won their first ever World Series title. Finished off the Diamondbacks in what, 5 games?
All right,
Um,
game.
yeah.
Most impressive part was ran 11-0 on in road games throughout the championship. I mean, that's unheard of.
hmm And yeah, good for that fan base. 102 losses just a couple years ago. And, of course, if you remember about 10, 12 years ago, the heartbreaking series loss they had against St. Louis.
Oh,
Um, During that
yeah,
Josh Hamilton resurgence, you thought the Rangers were going to win it. A couple
yeah.
late home runs in that series for the Cardinals to come back and win it. But it's an exciting playoffs. I'm sure Major League Baseball would have preferred some bigger teams.
But I
This was the
mean,
least
I
watched World Series in history.
can imagine. But I mean, if you like baseball at all, I mean, it was worth it. I mean, we saw
hmm
some epic upsets, some great baseball, some clutch baseball. And honestly, the right two teams made it. I mean, those was the hottest teams
hmm
coming in, and they did what they needed to do. Pulled off the upsets. And I mean, it's funny. For as much as sports fans claim that they love upsets, once they actually happen, people don't respond well to that.
There's a
Whether it be
weird, yeah, there's a weird like subsection of sports fans that actually talk like I mentioned the ratings just as from the MLB perspective. I
right,
don't give a shit, and I think I can speak for you. And we don't give a shit about the ratings. Who cares? Uh, this is the same thing if wrestling fans, who are competing. AW got this many ratings. WWE gets this many ratings. Who cares? I
yeah,
just like to see wrestling. I just like to see sports. And yeah, of course, I would have rather seen the Braves in it as a Braves fan.
right,
Um, but good baseball is good baseball.
exactly.
And yeah, who cares? The big, yeah, obviously, like I said, I want to see the Braves in it. I want to see Ronald Acuna in it. It'd be cool to see the big
Of course,
stars in it. But Texas deserved it. They earned it. And congrats to them. Um,
exactly.
Speaking of the Braves, they do open as the betting favorite for next year's title. Um, and then, of course, now we just go into the offseason. The big story in the offseason will be where does Shohei Otani land as he is
Yeah,
officially a free agent now.
you have to
Uh,
think everybody in baseball gives him a call.
yeah, you got to think everyone, because the usual suspects, the big team, you would think Boston, the Cubs, the Dodgers, of course, the Mets, because they just chill out your Yankees.
Yeah.
Um, if they, you
But at
know,
the same time, everybody's gonna go for it. But I mean,
yeah.
you have to. you also have to think, is he worth the price? Because if you don't have the other pieces around it, it doesn't make sense bringing them in because then you
Hmm.
have a whole situation again.
Yeah, and with the like with your Yankees, you have to consider things too. Like they still have Aaron Judge there, so who does Otani take the DH? Do you put Judge in the field somewhere? Do you want him to? It's a
And honestly, the Yankees have way bigger issues and things to worry about. I
yeah.
mean,
They
we
don't,
have
they don't need the bats. I don't think.
don't need the bats. We need to see about um, getting past Cashman. Do we need a new manager?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? With the third baseman. I mean, left field. I mean, it's a lot of things that need to take place in
Hmm.
more than Otani. It'd be beautiful thing, but yeah, I mean, there's way more that's needed there for sure.
Yeah, that if you kind of want to, MLB probably wants to see him go to a big market, although they're
Yeah.
horrible at promoting their stars anyway. So
Yeah.
who cares? As a fan, I just want to see him go to a team that's going to make the playoffs. That man deserves to play playoff baseball. Um, um, but yeah, like I said, that'll be the big talk in the off season for baseball anyway. Other Cody Bellinger is a pretty big free agent, I believe. Guys like Blake Snell, America, Aaron Nola. Um,
I saw that
yes.
the Reds are not going to re-sign Joey Votto, so that I mean
Yeah,
that would always be a Cincinnati Red, but
yeah. That's you wonder. Yeah, is he how much he's got left in the tank? Does he maybe hang it up or just chase a title, sign with a
right,
contender?
exactly.
Um, but yeah, that's it for the baseball season. It's a good season. I thought the new rules really helped out the game,
Yeah,
the pace of play.
Red, yeah,
Like I said, as a Braves fan, a little disappointing the way the season ended, but you can't be mad that nucleus and that lineup's still going to be there for a good few years now. I just hope the
contender for a
Braves
while.
add some starting pitching. Um, and you hope next year you see stories like the Rangers and the Orioles, and you see them keep going.
Right. Yeah,
That
because that's I've seen so many teams like make a run and then they don't keep it consistent. Look
hmm
at you, like Marlins. but
yeah,
hope the Rangers can keep that going. I think Baltimore should keep that going just with how they built it up. There'd be no reason not to because they seem to have a good thing going there.
yeah. They're
But
another team. They need to add some starters to that.
yeah,
They need a bona fide ace. They got a couple young
yeah,
guys there like Grayson Rodriguez that could
yeah.
potentially become one, but they need some really top starters there. But yeah, we'll move on from that to the NFL real quick. Trade deadline passed this week. Nothing too major. I think Chase Young going to the Niners is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
guess and then the Vikings did get Josh Dobbs.
yeah, which paid off immediately today. Of course, Kirk Cousins out for the year. They got Josh Dobbs from Arizona. Um, Arizona, of course, proceeded to lose all their fight because he was it. They got just dominated by the Browns today. And then Josh Dobbs not even expected to play for the Vikings today. They were starting the guy from BYU. He gets hurt. Josh Dobbs gets thrown in there. Probably doesn't even know all of his teammates' names or even the play calls, maybe, but plays
Man,
great. Leads them to a win. Um, a come from behind a late win, too, against the Falcons. Um, but yeah, elsewhere today, the Ravens beat the hell out of the Seahawks in a matchup of division leaders. Odell Beckham got his first touchdown as a Raven, and actually got it in garbage time from Tyler Huntley, so not even from Lamar. Um, Interesting. The Chiefs survived the Dolphins this morning in Germany.
yeah,
Um,
I'll tell you, 21-0 lead, and I had to hold on.
yeah. The Dolphins came storming back, and the Chiefs held on late.
Mhm.
CJ Stroud went absolutely apeshit today. threw
Yeah,
for
he did.
470, rookie
Yeah.
record, five touchdowns. Um,
Overall, man, he is clearly the the rookie quarterback that's living up to the hype.
hmm As we see our boy Bryce right now. Yeah, you got to run faster than that, Bryce. Um, yeah, and it also speaks to, I think, a couple things. Houston's actually built a solid team around him, which
Yeah,
tells me that they've had it for a couple years. They've been having the building blocks there, and they just did not get the coach right, which is why they've
right.
been firing guys after 1 year. But D'Amico Ryan's obviously a great hire there.
Yeah.
Roll Tide D'Amico. Um, so good for them. Yeah, CJ Stroud, amazing game. On my fantasy team, sitting on my bench though,
Oh,
him and his 82 points. Um,
jeez.
I will still win though. Luckily, I'm playing my buddy Tim, who is in last place and just does not have a good
Yeah.
team. So
And my
I,
one of my
even though
fantasy
82
leagues
points are sitting
have
on my bench,
work
I
league
am
there.
not. I'm really in
Been
real danger of
been
losing
blowing
to
folks
a
out
team.
every week. Then this week has been very bad. Knew it was gonna be a long week after Thursday.
hmm
George Pickens got me -1 or something. I was like, Lord.
yeah. And then let's see elsewhere. Your Eagles or your
Oh,
excuse me,
ah,
your
what?
Cowboys.
In a, in a,
Your
in the
Cowboys
fact,
right now in a struggle against their rival Eagles.
yeah, I mean, got down 4th and goal there. Didn't quite get into the end zone on that 4th and goal, but just got the ball back. Still got time. We'll see how it plays out there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Beautiful. While we were talking earlier, Jalen Hurts threw a dime to Devontae Smith, a little Alabama connection, for a touchdown in that one.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Um, but yeah, you so we're getting to that, and like we mentioned last week and this week, of course, with the odd number of games now. So we're officially about that halfway point in the
Yeah,
league where everyone's played at least 8 or 9 games of their 17. And things are starting to come into focus. Of course, another big Monday night game or a Sunday night game tonight, the
yeah.
Bills and Bengals.
Bengals, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, Bills have a chance to retake the AFC East lead if they win.
Hmm.
Bengals just trying to keep pace with Baltimore in the AFC North.
Yeah,
Because of course the Ravens own a tiebreaker over them right now, and 3 more wins in them in the standings and 1 less loss. So
but the
Bengals
whole
really need a
North,
win.
yeah, but the whole AFC North over 500 right now. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a tough division, and something. Yeah, Pittsburgh is a testament to Mike Tomlin's coaching because I don't understand every week I watch that offense and they win
No,
games somehow. Um,
that offense is atrocious. That offense I saw Thursday night, I was like, my goodness, this is bad football. Like,
it is, and you wonder how they keep winning games too. It's amazing.
ugly it up. I just think it's a matter of they just ugly it up so much that they just yeah, I just don't understand either. Like it's some
Yeah.
ugly football, but they get the job done. It fits the Pittsburgh. I don't know, just fits their culture, I guess.
hmm Um,
So,
but yeah, and then of course to see Jacksonville leading the AFC South, Chiefs in front of the AFC West pretty comfortably. If
kind of
the
right around
Eagles hold on, they will actually, regardless, I think the Eagles will still be in first in NFC East. But if they do hold on to win, they will open up a decent
two.
lead there over the Cowboys. As a screenplay to Tony Pollard there just got blown up. Uh, Lions trying to pull away in that North. I believe they were off this week. I think. Saints got themselves a big win
They did.
today too over the Chicago. A tougher one than you would expect it, but they are now in the lead. Coupled that with the Falcons losing and Tampa Bay losing to Houston.
Hmm.
And then you got that NFC West now with Seattle losing and San Francisco. I believe they're another team. Yeah, they were off this week as well. But they're both 5-3 in that division. So setting up for the second half of the year should be a lot of exciting races for playoff spots. and then top seeding and all.
Yeah, it's
That
gonna
race
be
for
some decent, teams left out. I mean, it's gonna be some teams over 500 that get left out the playoffs this year, I believe.
yeah. Oh no, right now, if we were to look at the standings right now as far as playoffs, in the AFC, you would have the Jets and Bengals above 500. They would be no dice, and then the Texans, despite their great year, would be left out.
Hmm.
Um, and then the NFC, a little more in that division. Your teams on the outside looking in right now are the Washington and Atlanta, both 4 and 5.
Hmm.
And that one seems it'll be tight though because you have the Vikings sitting in the 7th spot with
5-4.
losses, and then you have the Commanders, Falcons, and Bucks and Packers all right behind them with 5 losses. So I think
No
that
room for.
that race for that last spot's going to be really tough, and then that NFC South race. Um,
The
I guess.
NFC South is just you never know week to week. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody hates each other, so it's definitely a lot of matchups that going in look a certain way. Like I mean, Carolina's a bad team, but any week they could beat one of those teams, and we know the other three could beat each other any week. So who knows how that's gonna all play out in that South, which is often the case every season. The South is just beat each other up in division. Like
It's the biggest crapshoot in all of
yeah,
football always. Yeah, the only constant there is that the Panthers are not going to win it.
no, they're
Yeah, and that's another interesting actually race for. We did mention the Panthers do not have their first round pick next year. The Cardinals, I guess, right now are in the lead for the first overall pick, with the
and
Bears and Patriots behind them. Two and
obviously,
seven Patriots. Ooh.
it definitely seems like Arizona's doing their best to make sure that they stay in that hunt. Because I mean,
Hmm. Yeah,
they
which
made
makes
sure
it interesting to see. We didn't see it happen at the deadline, and I guess we'll see this offseason. Is Kyler Murray's days in Arizona done?
you would think so.
Yeah. D- Um, but yeah, so interesting. I guess no other real big notable stuff from today other than Daniel Jones went down again for New
Mm.
York, a non-contact injury too. It looked like so.
It's never good, those non-contact.
Yeah, that's they have Tommy DeVito playing right now, which if your Goodfellas was actually Joe Pesci's character name. Um,
Yeah, it's
that's funny. A New York guy feels apt. But that's all I have on our notes for this week, Greg. Anything in the world of sports you wanted to touch on?
I think I've covered it. I think we've done a good job of covering everything.
Well, that's good. In that case, then what has been done up real good for you this week?
Done up real good for me. Again, just with my daughter, had some academic competitions this weekend on Friday evening and Saturday morning. Uh, just some learning stuff as a freshman, just learning how those things go and at the high school level. So, I think she's enjoying it and just going to get better in those type of competitions. But proud of her being out there and getting out of her comfort zone. One of them is a speech thing. So, giving speeches in front of a lot of people is a big thing. Forensics is the class, but
Oh, yeah.
and how about you?
Uh, this week, let's see. My little boy celebrated his first birthday, of course, this week.
Uh,
Um, and then we had his little party for him. Of course, it's more for us and the
right.
family
Yeah.
members that really for the grandparents so they could spoil him.
Oh yeah.
It was a good time. Family, neighbors, friends came. We now have more baby toys than we know what to do with. Um, uh, Luckily, some people bought batteries as well. So
That's always good.
yeah.
'Cause that's the
And-
one thing. That's the one thing I remember is you get all this stuff and then no one remembers to get your batteries and you're like, well, we need a crap load of batteries.
yeah, and you go broke, buying batteries. And as we mentioned, before we started recording, of course, one of the things he did this morning, we sat him down, still had some new toys around him, and he crawls right over to the front door and wants to play with the shade on it. So,
the free item.
Yeah,
Thing that's already there.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's good. And crazy to think about, especially considering last year.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, so it was awesome. But that does it for us, folks. Thank you once again for listening to the Alabama Take here on the Taking on Sports on the Alabama Take family of podcasts. Do check out everyone else, including the Stare Down, the Alabama Slam, Taking It Down. Check Your Shelf, I believe. Recently put out a new episode. Their occasional literary. Um, check out the alabamatake.com for our writings. We mentioned Challenge fans. The challenge is back. So we have our weekly recap of that. Our Taking Bets column with me, Blaine, and Mallory. I believe we all had a rough week this weekend. But yeah, so it goes. Like I said, thank you once again for listening. Do subscribe, rate us, tell your friends about us, tell your rich friends about us. You can go to TeePublic and get yourself some Taking on Sports swag. You can follow us on all the social medias, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads. I will be honest with you, I really don't post much anywhere. Working on that, but you can still go follow us and retweet us when we tweet out the episode links.
And of course, yeah, all that swag. Definitely good Christmas gifts. Everybody wants to take it on sport.
Exactly. Good stuffers. You can get t-shirts and hoodies, and you can get little mouse pads and laptop covers, mugs. I got myself a little mug, coffee mug. That's perfect. You can get that for all the Alabama Take shows, in fact, or just the Alabama Take in general. Get your family done up real good for the holiday season.
Most definitely.
Uh, for Greg, I am TD. Thanks for listening, folks. As always, keep it done up real good yourselves out there. Greg, take it easy, buddy.
You too, man.